Hi, it's Walter McKenzie, and thank you for being in the moment. This month, we're working on Principle 6 of our Educator Agency and Efficacy Principles supports allocating programs, services, and resources that feed our bodies, our minds, and our souls. In reflecting on supports in education, um, I'm thinking about a recent experience I've had as we've been launching the Worthy Educator. Gretchen and Shante and I are educators, and so we do not have business backgrounds. And the end of last summer, I came across a couple of, I'll say, former educators who had moved out of the education space and were now definitely running their own business. And they were putting it out there that they were doing a boot camp where they could teach educators how to set up their own, what they called a learning-based business. So I talked with them to get a feel for what that was about, seeing if they could help fill in some blanks for me on how to think about sustaining a community. You know, the Worthy Educator is not a business, but in order to support and sustain a community, you have to be able to put the processes and structures in place that make it sustainable. And so I talked with them and I said, look, I'm not a salesman. I'm not looking to be uh, putting in some kind of a business in place, but I am looking for strategies and ways to think about how you offer services to educators so that you can keep the doors open and the lights on. And it was a good talk. They mentioned, well, they know a lot of systems they can recommend that will help streamline keeping track of records and payments and taxes. And I said, well, that's all fine and well, but I'm not really interested in that. I really want to know how to think about being in education and setting up a community so that it is something that can survive and thrive. So after talking, they got down to the bottom line for $1,800 I could get in. And this was, on the ground floor, just getting going. So this was a deal. And I talked with Gretchen and Shante, and they agreed, if we can get some basic understandings of how to think about building a community, why not? And so I went ahead. We worked through the fall. We finished up right as we started December. And it was every other week. We'd have one week that was a kind of imparting of information, and then the next week was just kind of like Q&A. And at the start, it was very helpful. And I got some basic ways to think about things like how do you set up coaching? How do you think about what the pricing is out there if you're going to have to charge to cover basic costs? We're not interested in making money off of educators, but we do know we want to show that we understand the value of what we offer and that we can cover basic costs, whether it's an event or coaching or anything in between. And so that was very helpful. And I kept sharing with Gretchen and Shante, okay, I learned this weekend, and this is helpful because we were just guessing, we were grasping, we didn't know how to think about any of this. Then as we got about midway through, started seeing kind of cracks in the program because we started getting things like scripts, which when I opened them and read them, they were like 8 and 9 page documents of how to talk somebody into a sale. And down to the detail of, here's your pitch. If they say they need to go talk to the spouse, put the pressure on them by saying this. If they say they need to think about their finances, you put the pressure on them by saying this. Don't let them get off the call until you get them to say yes. And when I was a young man at Ohio State getting my undergrad, I did things like this. I needed part-time spending money, so I worked for Olin Mills selling family portraits, calling people, would you like a portrait package for your kids for the holidays? And then I worked for a solar water heater company, which back in the early 80s in Ohio, the technology wasn't that advanced. And when I found out there wasn't even enough annual sunlight in Ohio to make it cost effective for people, I wound up walking away from that because I was basically calling people and talking them into, hey, you need a solar water heater. I even worked for a political operation at one point, calling their supporters and reading scripts and saying, this is the next big thing in Washington. Please donate to help us keep lobbying efforts going. So I did all that, and I never liked it. It's how I knew I wasn't a salesman, and it wasn't something that is going to be in my future. And as I read the scripts, I was like, okay, this is definitely going off the rails quickly for me. There were other people in the boot camp who were definitely thinking, I'm getting out of the classroom or out of the schools, and I want to do a business. And so for them, this was right down their alley. I continued to participate. I wanted to be a good sport. It was a boot camp. They were learning themselves, the two people offering this. And so I thought, they need me to stick with this. And for $1,800, I got to get whatever money's worth I can get out of this. And then came the last session. And by that point, I was pretty disillusioned and thinking, okay, well, I've learned. And they said they had a great offer for us, that for more money, we could become lifetime members of what they were doing and continue to benefit and be successful business people down the road. And they sent out an exit survey, and I completed that. And because they were educators, and I call them former educators, because obviously now they were business people. This was not about worrying about educators anymore. This was about how many seats they could get into these courses, these boot camps, and how much money they could make. And okay, they were upfront about it. They were honest about it. But here's my point. When I finished the exit survey, I gave them a number of pointers about how to think about their audience. It was all instructionally. It was like I was thinking as a teacher in front of a classroom. The audience, what the outcomes are going to be, and some pointers about, what, you really need to personalize it more. You can't just feed everybody through a fire hose and then expect, there were probably a dozen of us, I'm guesstimating, in the boot camp, and then expect everybody just to one size fits all. And my needs were definitely different, looking at it from more of a community educator support piece than running a business. And so I sent them all the information. I said, no, thank you. I won't be in the lifetime membership club, but I just waited. And I've waited for a month and thought, well, I'm sure as former educators, they're going to want to debrief and thank me for my input, my perspective, and my experience, and it would help them. I haven't heard a word. Haven't heard a word. They got their money. They got the experience of running the boot camp. I'm sure they'll sharpen and improve. And but my point is, for this in the moment reflection, they'll improve as a business, and all the more power to them. But to all of you listening, is that a support? If educators are leaving education to start learning-based businesses so that they can read your scripts, pressure you into paying to be a part of what they're doing, and then when you give them feedback and they're talking about being a lifelong member of something, and they don't even value your feedback enough to follow up and have some closure and understand more of what you're saying as the end user, what your experience was and how it could have been even more optimal. That's not a support. That is, we got your money, we completed the transaction, we understand you're not going to be with us for the long term, and we're moving on. So earlier this week, in one of our celebrated celebrations, I had a longtime friend and colleague that we lifted up to talk about work she's doing and how she's expanding what she's offering to educators. She's still in the classroom, still a wonderful educator, and definitely focused on students and learning, but she's trying to reach out more and get a feel for how she can have more impact outside of her immediate school. And I saw one of these two people who led the boot camp swoop in no time at all and congratulate this wonderful educator on being celebrated. But I know the drill. I know what's happening because this person is in the classroom and trying to expand out offering services to educators in schools. I know what the follow-up is going to be. It's going to be a sales pitch. Would you like to be in a boot camp? Can we have your money? Can we, entice you to become a savvy edu businesspreneur, whatever we are when we do this? And so I thought about it the last day, and as of this morning, I just blocked the two people. not because I have anything against them, not because I'm mad they didn't want my feedback or value it or respond to it, but just because I don't want them preying on people that we celebrate because they're educators and because they're doing important work and they are offering supports. They're not looking to just make a buck off of it. And so as we talk about supports this month, I want to offer that because it's everywhere out there. Everyone's out there hustling. I understand it's a gig economy. I understand what we're doing as a community can look like a business and can look like we're doing a hustle too. But note the difference. We're not out there pressuring you to pay to be a member, pay to get access to content. When we do charge for something, it's so minimal. It's obvious we're just covering cost. And it's because we want to be able to offer these things, but some of these things come with a small cost. There's no overhead, so we're not charging for any of that. And even we're in person in Chattanooga in April. The venue space we're able to get with no overhead. The speakers are all coming on their own dime. It's all to support each other, build a community, and provide professional learning and networking opportunities. And people have to be able to see the difference. People have to be able to look at that and go, ah, yes, the worthy educator is not hustling trying to take our money. They're not going to disappear as soon as they get our money and not worry about our experience or our feedback or how else they can support us. This is important to me because if supports are just a way of monetizing educators who we know have needs and we know are up against a wall, especially coming into 2025, and need community and need connections, need professional learning, need a place to go where they can feel safe and feel like they have support. Um, that's a problem that people are trying to monetize that because monetizing is kind of the cleaned up, we're all sophisticated talking about it in a business sense way. What we're really doing is cannibalizing our colleagues. We're saying, you've got a professional learning budget, charge it, well, give us $700 to $1,000 to come to our conference. Pay us $1,800, we'll tell you the secrets to becoming successful in the edu business sphere. What I've never understood about these people is we're not made of money. So it's not the yellow brick road. You're not going to be able to endlessly find new sources of educators willing to hand over money. We don't have it. And while you may get someone like me who in a moment wanting to learn more about the market said, okay, we'll find the 1,800 and participate. Once you get burned, you're not coming back. And once you realize, hey, this is not okay. People are going to change and realize we need to find people that have our best interest in mind, not people that are out there thinking it's okay to convert educator needs into transactional fees. Years ago, Eric Fromm came up with this concept he called homo consumens, man the consumer. And as I reflect on the world in 2025, it's so prevalent. Consuming means you have to have producers, which means the producers have to sell. So they have to have marketers. The marketers have to go find customers. They have to market in ways that the customers come reliant on their products and goods and services. And I'm looking at society today, and so many people are walking around going, I like these big brand corporations because I want them to entertain me. I want them to fix things for me. I want them to tell me what I want to hear, and I'll spend money for them. If you know you're doing that and you have favorite brands, fine, that's your business. But if you're allowing them to cannibalize the integrity of what you do as an educator, there's a line there and it's getting crossed. So instead of homo consumens, man the consumer, what I'm suggesting this morning is man the creator. The idea that we can take care of ourselves by being self-reliant, by imagining solutions and options and futures, and then making it so and living on our terms and not being dependent on these companies and these producers and these edupreneurs that are just looking to make money off you by telling you what you want to hear. Work in the system as much as you can. And we'll be talking about that this month in our town hall and in our third panel on transforming education. and on our educator advocacy training. Work in the system as much as you can. That's where you can make real long-term institutional change. But then when it comes to innovation and being a creator and showing how it can look different, when the institution, the bureaucracy, the long-term established educational system won't bend and won't allow you to innovate and be creative, then work outside the system. Create the options and solutions so good that the system will eventually come to you and say, we need to incorporate that in. You've shown us what it can look like. You've shown us how to address all the red tape and loopholes and dead ends that keep us from getting out of our own way. And so we want to bring that in now. You have ways of doing this. We all do. And at the Worthy Educator, we're going to be talking starting in January and how to do that as educators, not as business people, not as companies, not as brands, but as educators who got into this to make a difference and can make a difference, even with everything looming over us. Work in the system, but do not allow the system to hem you in, define you as a consumer, make you their customer, and then treat you like all you are as a source of revenue. Okay, went off on a bit of a rant there, but that is a reflection for this month of supports. And thank you for being in the moment.